They said you couldn't do it. Prove them wrong. They laughed when you shared your dream. They looked you in the eye and said, You'll never make it. They didn't whisper it. They declared it. Not because they knew your limits, but because they feared your potential. They feared that if you made it, they'd have to admit that they never tried. And that's where it starts, with a seed of doubt planted by people too afraid to believe. Imagine a kid, quiet, underrated, always picked last. Not because they weren't capable, but because they didn't look the part. He walks into school with a dream in his eyes, to become something more, a doctor, a singer, an entrepreneur, a world changer. But reality smacks him early. You're not smart enough. You're not talented. You're from the wrong place, the wrong family, the wrong side of life. Every time he raises his hand, someone pushes it down. Every time he tries, someone says, "Don't waste your time." They want him to believe he's average. They want you to believe you're just like everyone else. But something inside him burns. Not arrogance, not entitlement, just fire. A fire that whispers, "What if they're wrong?" He doesn't shout it. He doesn't post it. He just gets quiet and starts working. While they party, he prepares. While they laugh, he learns. While they sleep, he studies, trains, fails, and gets back up. Because greatness doesn't come with applause. It comes with isolation, the grind, the silence, the sacrifice. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Mahatma Gandhi, and that's how it always starts. You show up with nothing but belief, and they treat it like a joke. But belief is dangerous, it grows. At home, his parents don't get it. They say, "Why don't you do something safe? Why can't you be like everyone else?" But his heart knows. He wasn't built to blend in. He was born to break out. He works nights, flips burgers, washes dishes, cleans gym floors. Not because he loves it, but because he knows it's not forever. He's building something, brick by brick, day by day. And nobody sees it. That's the lonely part of chasing a dream. You build in silence while the world mocks your blueprint. And then comes the breaking point. That one night, everything crashes. He fails a big test. His bank account hits zero. He gets rejected again. And he wonders, were they right about me? That voice, the one he silenced for so long, creeps back in. You'll never make it. You're wasting your time. You should quit. It's in this moment, where most people walk away, where dreams die, where the crowd wins. But not him. Because while the world told him what he couldn't do, he never stopped believing in what he could. And that night, with tears in his eyes and nothing in his hands, he looks in the mirror and says, "I'm not done." That's the line. That's the moment. Not some big speech. Not a spotlight. Just a quiet, stubborn refusal to quit. Because here's the truth. Every legend you've ever heard was once just a nobody who didn't quit. It always seems impossible until it's done. Nelson Mandela, they said he couldn't. They said he wouldn't. They said he shouldn't. And now, he's about to show them what happens when you bet on yourself. Because when you've got nothing to lose and everything to prove, you don't back down. You rise. The next morning, nothing had changed, not on the outside. Still broke. Still alone. Still doubted. But something was different on the inside. That quiet fire, it roared now. Not with anger, but with clarity. He realized the world wasn't going to give him a chance. So he decided to take one. Every failure, every rejection, every no became fuel. While most people see the wall and turn back, he saw the wall and started climbing. Slowly, painfully, but he climbed. He didn't have all the answers. He didn't have connections. He didn't have privilege. But what he did have was a reason. And when your why is strong enough, your how shows up. He started small, one step at a time, reading books no one else was reading, watching the way successful people moved, talked, worked, copying what worked, cutting what didn't. No ego, just learning. Because he knew this truth. Every expert was once a beginner who didn't quit. He stopped chasing validation. He stopped explaining himself. He let the doubters talk. He let the critics laugh. But he didn't stop moving. People around him were still stuck in the same patterns. Still gossiping. Still making excuses. Still waiting for luck. He didn't have time for that anymore. He had decided, if the door doesn't open, I'll build a door. They said he wasn't smart enough. He studied harder. They said he wasn't strong enough. He trained longer. They said he'd never make it out of that small town. He used every corner of that town as his gym, his classroom, his battleground. While others waited for motivation, he became disciplined. And that's the difference. Motivation fades. Discipline doesn't. It was never about feeling good. It was about doing the work even when it sucked. Because deep down, he knew, if I stop now, they win. That thought kept him going. Every time he wanted to quit, he remembered every person who said, "You're not good enough. You're wasting your time. You don't belong." He repeated their words in his mind, not to hurt himself, but to remind himself what he was fighting for. They gave him doubt. He turned it into drive. They gave him limits. He turned them into launch pads. And then, something started to happen. The work began to show. A test score improved. He got a small opportunity. Someone finally said, "Hey, you're actually pretty good at this." But by now, he didn't need their approval. Because he wasn't doing it for applause. He was doing it for redemption. The redemption of every time he was underestimated. Of every door slammed in his face. Of every room he was never invited into. He remembered being the outsider. Being the afterthought. Being invisible. Now he walked into rooms, and people turned to look. Not because he demanded attention, but because he earned it. Not with words, but with work. Because success speaks in silence. In results. In transformation. You want to shut them up? Don't argue. Level up. That's exactly what he did. No one could deny it anymore. He was changing. He was rising. And yet, deep down, he was still the same person. Still that underestimated kid with a dream. But now, he carried a quiet confidence. Because he had faced the storm and survived. He had stood alone and kept standing. He had built himself, piece by painful piece. And the people who once said you can't, now they said, "Hey, I always believed in you." Funny how that works. But he didn't need their praise. He had already given himself permission to succeed. Because the truth is, you don't need the world to believe in you. You just need you. You need to look in the mirror and say, "I was built for this. I can take the hits. I'm not done yet." Because this story, it's not just about him. It's about you. Every time you've been told you can't. Every time you've been pushed down, looked over, written off. You've got two choices. Let it define you, or let it ignite you. This is your moment. To decide. To rise. To prove them wrong. And not with rage, but with results. Not with revenge, but with rebirth. Because your story isn't over. It's just getting started. There's something powerful about momentum. Once it starts moving, it becomes harder to stop. And that's what was happening now. All those early mornings. All those sleepless nights. All the times he pushed forward when his body said, "Rest," and his mind said, "Quit." It was finally paying off. Not in the form of fame. Not money. Not yet. But in growth. In confidence. In clarity. He was no longer chasing the dream just to prove them wrong. He was chasing it now because he finally believed he could make it real. That's what belief does. It starts as a whisper, then becomes a roar. And once you believe in yourself, truly, deeply, no one can take that away. People began to notice. Friends who disappeared started reaching out again. Old teachers who never saw his potential started asking for updates. Even his own family, once skeptical, began to soften. "Wow, you're really doing it." But he didn't let the praise distract him. Because the same voices that once told him to give up were now trying to ride the wave of his rise. He wasn't bitter. He had no time for bitterness. He had only one thing on his mind: keep going. Because the truth is, the world is full of people who only believe after you make it. But the ones who make it, they believe before there's any proof. He stayed locked in, grinding, building, improving. Every single day, no shortcuts, no gimmicks, just relentless forward motion. His mornings started before the sun. His nights ended when the work was done, not when the clock said stop. And every single time doubt crept in, he remembered the voice that started this all, the one that said, "You'll never do it." And he smiled, not because it hurt, but because it used to. Now, it just reminded him how far he'd come. Pain became power. Struggle became strength. Doubt became drive. And in this transformation, something even deeper changed. He stopped needing to prove them wrong. He started living to prove himself right. That's when the game really changed. When your motivation no longer depends on revenge, but on purpose. When you stop needing applause and start moving because it's who you are. He wasn't doing it for attention. He wasn't trying to be seen anymore. He was becoming the person he always knew he could be. That shift? That's the moment you become unstoppable. He applied for a job everyone said was out of his league, and got it. He pitched an idea people told him would never work, and it took off. He stood in rooms he used to only dream about and spoke with a voice no one could ignore. Not because he changed overnight, but because he changed every day, bit by bit, step by step. They called it luck. They said, he's just naturally gifted. But they didn't see the lonely nights, the rejections, the fear, the pain, because people only see the result. They don't see the road it took to get there. They don't see the anxiety he fought every morning, the insecurity he crushed every time he raised his hand, the failures he buried under lessons. They don't see the version of him that almost quit 100 times, but he didn't. And that's what matters. Because in the end, the people who win aren't always the fastest, or the smartest, or the most connected. They're the ones who refuse to give up, even when the world tells them to, even when everything seems stacked against them, even when the finish line feels a million miles away. They keep going, because they've made a decision. I don't care how long it takes. I'm not stopping. And somewhere along the journey, success becomes inevitable, because effort always compounds, and energy always returns, and truth always rises. And now, he's walking in that truth. They can't deny him anymore. They can't overlook him. They can't pretend he's not real, because he's no longer the underdog, no longer the outsider, no longer the quiet kid with a loud dream. He's living it now, not someday, now. And he's just getting started. Because once you climb one mountain, you realize there are more. And this time, he's not climbing to prove anything to anyone. He's climbing because it's who he was born to be. Success is a strange thing. The same people who once doubted you will suddenly act like they always believed. They'll say, I knew you had it in you. They'll try to rewrite history, but you remember the truth. You remember who stood beside you when you had nothing. You remember who went quiet when you needed support. You remember who laughed, who doubted, who walked away. But here's the thing, you don't carry resentment. You don't need revenge, because your existence is the answer. Your progress is the proof. You are walking evidence that doubt doesn't define destiny, that failure is not final, that belief beats statistics, and that no one, not one single person, has the power to write your story but you. There's something sacred about rising, not because of the noise, but because of the silence it comes from. No one really saw the years you spent in the shadows, the days you felt like giving up, the nights you cried in secret, the quiet victories that no one clapped for. They don't see the full story, and maybe that's okay, because what you've built isn't for show. It's for legacy. This is no longer about proving people wrong. It's about proving what's possible. For the next kid growing up in a broken home, hearing, you'll never be anything. For the single parent working 2 jobs, told they're too tired and too late. For the dreamer who's failed more times than they can count, and still keeps dreaming. You're showing them, by being you, that impossible is just a word people use to protect their comfort zones. You're showing them that there's power in starting with nothing, power in being underestimated, power in every no you've ever heard. Because each no pushed you closer to your yes. Each locked door forced you to build a new one. Each rejection gave you thicker skin. Each setback refined you, matured you, humbled you. And now, you move differently. You don't chase people. You don't beg for chances. You create them. You earn them. There's a different energy in someone who's walked through fire and come out stronger. They don't speak the same way. They don't panic under pressure. They've been forged. And when people ask, how did you do it? You won't talk about talent. You won't talk about luck. You'll talk about the nights you stayed in, the weekends you sacrificed, the hours you worked when no one was watching. Because that's where greatness is born. In the discipline no one claps for. In the choices no one sees. In the resilience no one understands. They think it was overnight? Let them think that. You know better. You know the years it took to build the confidence, to build the mindset, to build the habits that became your foundation. And now, you walk taller. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. You're not here by accident. You didn't stumble into this. You built it. With sweat, with pain, with faith. And here's the most beautiful part. You're still becoming. You're not done. Because people like you, people who have tasted rock bottom and still rose, you don't stop once you reach the peak. You look for higher ground. You're not addicted to winning. You're addicted to growing. And now, the mission is bigger than just you. It's about who you can lift, who you can inspire, who you can awaken. Because you've been the ones searching for a light in the dark. And now, you are the light. You've become the example you once needed. And that's power. Not loud, flashy power, but quiet, grounded, unshakable power. The kind of power that comes from pain turned into purpose. The kind that comes from surviving what was meant to destroy you. The kind that no one can take away. And now, when people say, "You changed," you smile and say, "I was supposed to." You were never meant to stay small. Never meant to live in the box they built for you. Never meant to shrink to fit their comfort. You were meant to rise, to evolve, to lead. And that leadership? It's not about a title. It's not about being in charge. It's about walking in truth, with humility, with courage, with grace. Because while they were watching your results, you were working on your roots. And that's why you're still standing when others fell apart. Because what you've built isn't fragile. It's not based on hype. It's built on something real. Vision, conviction, discipline. And now, they see it. The same ones who said you wouldn't. Now they watch you in awe. And maybe some of them still whisper, "You got lucky." Let them. Because you didn't come this far to argue. You came this far to shine. And shine you will. You shine now, not because they finally see you, but because you finally see yourself. That's the shift. That's what they never tell you. The real glow up isn't when the world claps for you. It's when you stop waiting for it. You stop begging for validation. You stop needing permission. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" Because now you know you are. You've walked through fire, and you didn't burn. You learned. You leveled up. You lit the path for someone else. They said you couldn't do it, but you did. And not only that, you did it with grace, with integrity, with your head held high. No shortcuts, no faking it, no stepping on others to rise. You did it the hard way, the real way, the right way. And that's why it means so much. Because this wasn't just about success. It was about healing. It was about reclaiming your power. It was about rewriting the story they tried to write for you. The story that said you'd never matter, that you'd never make it, that your dreams were too big, your voice too small, your past too broken. But here you are, breathing proof that their version of your story was wrong. Living proof that your beginning didn't determine your ending. And now, you get to ask yourself a powerful question. What else is possible? If you could rise from that place, if you could overcome all that, what else can you become? Because the story doesn't stop here. You're not at the end. You're at the beginning of becoming. Now you build higher. Now you dream bigger. Now you take others with you. Because real success isn't just climbing the mountain. It's reaching back and pulling others up with you. It's reminding them, "I was where you are. I know the doubt. I know the fear. I know the silence. But look, we don't stay down. We rise." You don't need a stage to lead. You don't need a title to inspire. You just need your truth. Your scars are your strength. Your wounds carry wisdom. Your story is someone's survival guide. So tell it. Live it. Own it. Let the world hear what it tried to silence. Let them feel the power in your presence. Not because you shout the loudest, but because you walk with purpose. And if you're still on the journey, still climbing, still struggling, still doubting, listen closely. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are becoming. Becoming someone they said you'd never be. Becoming the version of yourself that seemed impossible. Becoming the force that breaks the cycle. And yes, it's still going to hurt. It's still going to be hard. The voices might still whisper. The doubt might still visit. But now you know what they don't. That the pain has a purpose. That every step forward matters. That even slow progress is still progress. And that what they say doesn't matter. What you believe does. So believe, even when it feels foolish. Stand, even when it feels shaky. Speak, even when your voice trembles. You are the proof. You are the answer. You are the one they weren't ready for. And now it's your time. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. To the one still doubting themselves. To the one who's heard, "You can't" more than you can. To the one who's been told to settle, to shrink, to stay silent. This is your sign. Don't stop. Don't shrink. Don't surrender. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that every time they said you couldn't, they were wrong. And you? You were always right to believe. Now go prove it. Not with words, but with action. Prove them wrong.